Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Kevin Kepple. Kevin is a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach and the founder of Kepple Coaching. He has helped hundreds of leaders evolve to higher levels of freedom. Through his programs, he helps you unlock your genius and maximize the success and impact you have to increase your revenue. Kevin is an energetic and positive human being and is all about being present and doing work that will make you feel truly alive. His coaching program teaches others how to work as a team and become leaders of leaders, to find freedom from their thoughts so that they can be the best selves instead of just being managers. Excuse me. Sorry, my just getting over a cold. Thank you so much for joining me, Kevin, and welcome to the show.
And I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So tell me a little bit about your background. You have this. So first of all, I'm familiar with, Gallup polls. It's like one of the main polling institutions, at least here in the United States. You get a lot of data from doing polls, and you're a leadership coach. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what makes you so amazing.
Sure. Like a lot of folks, getting out of college, I got this degree and I got a badge and a gun, and I knew enough to be dangerous, but I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And I went into some different types of professional sales roles, and I had some great leaders, and I had some leaders that weren't so great. But I always really resonated with the people that were coming up behind me, and I loved helping people just be more of the things that made them special without making them feel like less. And then I started hiring coaches to coach me because I wanted to go further faster. And I know every single time I've ever been coached, I've quantum leaped down the road towards whatever it is I'm looking for. And then I realized that that's what I was actually doing in my roles. And so many moons ago, I stepped over and started doing that on my own. And like you said, Gallup's phenomenal at taking polls. They've been doing that since the early 1900s, like collecting farming data back then. And they have a great tool called Strengths Finders that went through their certification years ago. And I mean, this juncture, I've coached thousands of people with this tool, and just like any other tool, it's powerful in the right hands, and it gives you insight into, hey, what does my highest, best self look like? And what does it look like when I truly own, the natural talents that I have, and point all of my creative energy towards, that? What does that look like? And maybe more importantly, what does it look like when I give all that power away? And so that's one of the things I absolutely love about that tool. So I get to use that and helping the leaders that I work with. I work with lots of different types of leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, business owners, and I really love coming alongside people that are feeling, stuck in some area of, their business or life, and helping them get unstuck and find that flow and really start to convert that into, real world abundance and wealth. And it's a really cool thing to get to do because I get to co-create and co-elevate with people as, part of the, my job. And so I'm super grateful that that's what I get to do day in and day out.
What's interesting, what you brought up is that not only do you have poor leaders, but you also have great leaders that need help, right? And both of them, are working under a poor, someone who has poor leadership skills is absolutely infuriating, right? It's just one of those things where you're like, oh my God, I know I can do better. And then when you're being artificially held back by someone who really just can't get it straight, is like, oh my God, please just get me out of this situation, right? It is such a demotivator. It can cause you to quit. It can cause, immense problems in motivation and production. There are just all kinds of repercussions that that can happen there. And then when you have a leader who is effective, but just needs, they need, some of that care as well in order to elevate their status, it's also equally important. How do you help identify, you know, when someone comes into your wheelhouse, how they how they're able to present themselves? Like what kind of skills do they need to brush up on? How does that look?
Yeah, how do we figure out what's wrong with you? Yeah, what a great question. Really, it's so simple. It's two questions where I'm always going to start with people, and it's like, what do you want? And and then why? what and why. If I can't answer those very simply, then I don't understand it. And if I don't know what I want, like how in the world would I know if I got it, or how do I know what action to take to go get it? It's like, what do you want? Like, what are you passionate about? Bringing into your role, bringing into your life, and then the why is your purpose. Like, how are you mixing generosity into this? And once we're really clear on what it is we want, it's like, okay, like what's stopping us from getting that? And where are our actions and behaviors misaligned with, bringing me the results that I'm looking to create? If I do this and it takes me farther away from the goal, then maybe I need to find a better way. And like you said, it's not like, fixing people necessarily. It's just helping people see what better looks like, because that's always the goal. It's like not perfection. It's just I want to be better than I was yesterday. Like, so simple, but doesn't mean it's easy.
One of the things that I found interesting about your is that you have this part of the program is about assessing your strengths, right? Assessing, what it is about you that is already awesome, and then amplifying that, and making it better, and pivoting it so that you can have a much better projection of your power and get more production and admiration out of the people that you're leading. What does that look like when someone comes into your program? You're assessing their strengths, and like you're coming up on some realizations that maybe they're not so strong in what they thought they were, and like you need to help help them figure out, like, no, you're actually kind of deficient here, but here are some of the modalities that you can work on. What does that look like?
Sure. I think when it comes to, genius and really owning our genius, it has so much more to do with habits than it does with actual natural talent. And, Strength Finders is a great assessment. And that's one of the reasons I love this tool, because it's like, hey, here's your natural talents. And I've seen, like I said, thousands of these reports. I've never seen a blank one. There's always the same 34 talents, just in a different order. But what's rare is people who can use those talents on demand as strengths. And I mean, like I'll have people that I work with for a number of months or whatever, and I'm like, hey, so remind me your top five, or your strengths again, and they'll start looking through their phone or looking through their computer, like, hold on just a second. I'm like, man, if this is your greatest potential area for elite performance, this is how you own your genius. This is how you bring your greatest work into the world, where you create it at your zenith. Like, don't you think we should bother, maybe memorize these and so we can have awareness of how to use these on demand without looking at our phone? It's like, if I bumped into Superman walking down the street, and I'm like, hey, what kind of superpowers do you have? And he had to look in his phone to tell me he could fly. I was like, that would be awkward. And it's like a joke, obviously, but when it comes to people, like if I have these things that are, natural talent, and every time I go back to it and I raise awareness of it, I can create more impact. Then why wouldn't I spend my time doing that? Because I want to bring my greatest work into the world, and I want to do it in a way that only I can, and my highest, most authentic self. And I can't ever be creative making copies of other people. And it's such a cool thing when you're owning your unique genius like that. You don't fall into that comparison game where you're looking at other people and getting like two results, right? I don't ever look at other people and like, I'm exactly like them. It's either I feel inferior or superior if I compare myself. And Teddy Roosevelt, comparison is the thief of joy. Like, we rob ourselves of joy every time we compare ourselves to someone else. And so it's so simple. Like, if there's one thing I can do to improve everything, it's to master the skill of choosing love over fear, because every action we've ever taken came from one of those two places. It was either fear based and it's like a reaction and a resistance, or it's love based and it's creation and acceptance of whatever it is. Buddha said it thousands of years ago. Suffering comes from wanting things to be different than they are. Like, whatever is, no matter whatever story I make up about it. But when I choose love over fear, that allows me to create and to, accept and move forward. It might not be the perfect way. It might be one more way not to do something, but if I react and create resistance, then I'm just repeating some past pattern or behavior that's not serving me. And resistance leads to, overstress, because you're getting backed up, and, energy is going to flow to the path of least resistance. That's why water flows downhill. And so if I, create this pathway to creation and doing the hard things and make that normal, then that's the path of least resistance. And that's where all of my energy is going to flow, because whatever I'm focused on, I'm going to create more of. And if I'm focused on fear, I'm going to create more fear, whether, that fear manifests as anger, guilt, shame, remorse, apathy, pride, ego, whatever. But when you choose love, it's like, it's really powerful, because it's not, me right, you wrong. It's just like us. And, that's such a cool way because when you treat people with unconditional love, not like romantic, obviously, but love for their humanity, like no matter how you show up, I'm still going to love you. Right. And, we don't have to like people to love them. Right. We just need to treat them with humanity and love. And really, that's how you connect with people. And that's how you build these mutually beneficial, co creating, co elevating relationships.
What's really cool about what you just described, really breaking it down into this really binary equation, love versus fear, right? And if you manage from a position of love, if you manage from a position of loving what you do, loving the people that you work with, right? And really being able to project that positivity into your work, it actually makes everything a whole lot more enjoyable to do, right? And if you do it from fear, let's just take, like right now, one of the big things that's in the news is Elon Musk taking over Twitter, right? Let's harp on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
And basically what he did is that he recently sent out an email saying, guys, I need you to commit to, this is going to be a hectic workplace and it's going to be very intense. And if you're not all in, please take the severance package and leave. Right. And some people are cheering that on, like, yeah, okay, way to go. While others are like, dude, this is so toxic. I am out of here. Right. What are your thoughts on this? Like when you're looking at a leader, especially, someone as high profile as that, and seeing that kind of stuff being displayed so publicly, how do you see, how things are going to play out in an organization like that, if those modalities are being shown so vividly front and center?
Man, when I was reading about that this morning, actually, I was really hoping that there's a lot more going on than we can see because, just looking at it, what information we're presented with, like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I feel like there's a really specific influence equation as leaders that we can work. And, leadership is influence, according to John Maxwell, leadership, guru. And I know when I was a new leader, I worked the equation backwards. Like I just shared the vision. I'm like, here's where we're going. Go get it. And if you don't do it, then you're in trouble or whatever, because that was my model. But I think the influence equation, if you will, is trust, connection, then vision. Like we have to build trust first, right? Because if I trust you, that means I feel safe. And if I feel safe, that means I feel okay to be vulnerable. And if I'm feeling safe and that it's okay to be vulnerable, that's when I'll go into the unknown. And only going into the unknown do I create something new. But if I feel like I'm in danger, like I'm not going to create something new, I'm going to stick to what's safe and known. And there's no connection. So there's no like shared vision. It's just, doing what I'm told. And that's management, not leadership.
So what's interesting about what you just said, right, is that at some point you do have to look at a reputation like Musk's, and be like, okay, the guy's one of the richest people in the world. He built spacecraft, he built a car company when everyone told him he can't, right? And now he's taking over the world's largest social platform, right? Where people are communicating. So it's not like he does not have a track record. It's not like Jeff Mendelson just showed up and, hey, I'm the new CEO of Twitter, right? This guy does have a definitive track record, to go by it. So, part of that is, do you trust someone like that based on the anecdotal evidence that you've had over the past couple of years of his successes and how he runs a company? Or do you just go in, I'm not doing that, and walking out and taking the severance? Right? How do you see that?
Yeah, yeah, man, it's really confusing to be quite honest. Like you said, he's had so much success and like a lot of different industries, and it's hard to argue with success. Like I just don't feel like you're creating that massive amount of success if you're totally alienating everybody that you work with. But sometimes like a lot of the leaders I get to work with, they've become a victim, and the villain is their success, and that success is creating the overstress and the chaos, and it's starting to change the way that they approach things, the way they approach life. And maybe it's even a regression to, they had that behavior in the past and they're going back to it because they're in fear, because there's so many outside influences going on. And so maybe it looks really emotional, like from the outside looking in. But like you said, it seems like he's such a tactical, strategic guy that like I don't think he makes decisions emotionally, but that's what it sure looks like. But I feel like there's something that we can't see that he's maybe trying to clean house of a certain type of mindset in there and trying to bring in a new culture up. I don't know. It's really, it's quite confusing.
That's a really great insight. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was hoping that you can share with us a success story of someone that came into your program, took your assessments, and was able to level up, through your program. How did that look? Like, you don't have to name names, but like, how did the process work, and what kind of results were they able to achieve afterwards?
Sure. So, you know, pretty typical. One of the CEOs I get to work with, she's really powerful, and she was having tons of success when she came in. And I mean, she was making $500,000 a year, which is great money, and that's what she was taking home. And family, she's happy, but she was really stressed because she was really busy, but not always productive, and she wasn't getting to create the things she wanted to create. She was just continually doing the things she was really, really good at, and she didn't like the company she was a part of, and so she's like, "I want more. I just have no idea what getting to this more look like." And so, we did the strengths, of course, and got really clear on, the types of things that are gonna maximize her energy, because that's one of the cool things about this assessment. It's like, "Hey, here's your natural sources of energy, and when you use these, this is your most powerful version of, your creative output." And so we got clear on that. We got clear on what she wanted, and why. And long story short, she really wanted to start her own company, and she did in the middle of the pandemic. And she doubled her revenue in the first year. Started taking home seven figures, and stopped working on Fridays and had more time with her family. Bought a vacation home, started writing a book, and like all this like creative expression started coming out because she started making new decisions about who she was and what was important to her. And she ended up doing less and creating way more. And man, like, for one, there was more ease, peace, and flow in her life. And, that I think that's something we all want more of, or, especially if we don't have it, period.
That's really cool that you brought that up because, like, someone who's already very successful, by pretty much every measure, being able to double that plus and have more time and more energy for the other things. I mean, that's really the pinnacle then of success, is that it's not just about the money. The money actually
Right.
becomes just this fringe benefit towards everything else that makes it interesting, because if she had to work twice as hard in order to double her salary, that would be, dude, that just would not be enjoyable, right? And like, a lot of things would start to break apart, between relationships, with spouse, children, friends, things like that, and of course performance at work, which is always, important as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. Kevin, where can people learn more about your practice, and how can they reach out to you directly?
Sure. Our website's kevinkeppel.us. Any social media, it's Kevin Keppel. I spend probably the most time on Instagram or LinkedIn. So yeah, reach out, say hi, man. I love connecting with other folks that are, looking to co-create with other people and serve, at the highest level they can.
I love it. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. I love nerding out on this stuff, and
Me
it's been
too.
a really enjoyable conversation. Thank you for
Thank,
joining me.
thanks, Jeff. Grateful for you.